Welcome back. This is the Atlanta Sports Podcast. Today is our second episode. Today is August 7th. This probably won't get released till August 8th. If you didn't get a chance to download and listen to our first episode of the day, I suggest you go listen to it and then come back and listen to this one. But it doesn't really matter, whichever order you want to. This episode is going to be mostly about the Atlanta Braves. We had a lot of stuff to talk about, so we decided to give them an entire episode to themselves. So, Luke, start us off.
Okay, so we'll dive straight into the trades. We'll kind of make this our trade deadline recap episode. So we'll be talking a lot about trades today. We'll start off with the big one. Matt Kemp plus cash traded from the Padres to the Braves for Hector Olivera. What do you think of that trade, Frankie?
I mean, I like the trade. Obviously, we needed to get rid of Hector Olivera. He was supposed to be one of the bigger names to this team eventually this year, next year. Then with his suspension and then everything got off track from there. The Braves didn't need to keep him around, and bringing in somebody like Matt Kemp, he can at least help with the home run total right now, which, as we all know, is last in the majors.
Yeah, and he's leading the team. Just coming in, he's got 24 home runs this year, 23 with the Padres, hit one for the Braves last night, so he's got 24. He's already leading the Braves, but Freddie Freeman's got 19, so he's right on his tail.
Besides those two, the Braves really have no power in the major league system or on the farm system also. That's one question that the Braves have in their organization. But he also brings a leadership to the clubhouse, and he's a veteran, so on a team with lots of young guys, that's very important.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that minor league power in another trade. But I think it's hard to not like this Kemp for Olivera trade. Yeah, Kemp's not going to be what he was a few years ago when he was in the top 5 of MVP voting. But the interesting thing is, yeah, he's overpaid on a big contract. The Braves are only paying him $8.5 million per year, more than they'd be paying Hector Olivera. So that's how John Coppolo is looking at it as a positive. I think it was a great trade. It was good to get a kind of negative influence off the team. I don't think Hector Olivera was a bad person. It's just being from Cuba, nothing against him for that, but he just wasn't very social with a lot of the players, just from what I saw as a fan being down by the dugout. Just kind of taking in the environment. He didn't really talk to many people, even the Spanish-speaking players like Adonis Garcia. Not a lot of conversation between him and those type of players, so I don't think he was really a big positive guy that we're getting rid of. Also, he's got that domestic violence on his record, and the Braves just don't want to be associated with that. There were reports that the Braves were never even going to plan on calling him back up, and that could have resulted in us releasing Olivera, so I'd rather get somebody back than release him.
I would too.
So now we'll move on to a trade that happened a little before that Kemp for Olivera trade. We're going to go to the trade that sent Lucas Harrell and Dario Alvarez to the Rangers for Travis Demeritte. First off, a lot of people that are just casual fans that don't follow the transactions as much as we do probably don't know who those two are. Lucas Harrell was picked up by Gwinnett in, I believe it was May, as a minor league free agent. He'd been released by his former team. Not sure who that former team was, but we picked him up for nothing. Just minimum minor league contract. Dario Alvarez was claimed off of waivers from the Mets. He just wasn't pitching very well with them. He couldn't strike anyone out. The Braves brought him in. He started striking everybody out. Lucas Harrell had several good outings. One bad one, though, but the good outshined the bad. And we were able to flip him for Travis Demeritte, who is a really nice prospect. Frankie, tell us a little bit more about Demeritte.
Well, so he's already the Braves' number 9 prospect. He came into the farm system. He's a 2013 30th overall pick. He has 25 home runs this year, so he's a power hitter, which addresses some of that power hitting issue we mentioned earlier. He has a 33% strikeout rate, and he's hitting .260 this year.
Yeah, so that stat line is very interesting, especially for a Braves fan that says, oh, we don't have any power. There could be power on the way. Now, his position, he's listed as a shortstop. He played center field earlier in his career before he was moved to shortstop, and he can play second base, third base, really anywhere in the infield, outside of first base, of course. So that kind of solves a problem if we all seem to think Swanson's going to work out. So if Albies were to maybe not work out for the Braves, he's a backup option. If both of them work out, he could be our third baseman, and then we could have that power at third base just like we did back when Chipper was here.
That would be very nice to have a set infield. I know the only thing we would be missing is a catcher, because we have plenty of pitching talent in the system.
But then you could flip that pitching talent for a catcher if there's leftovers.
Definitely could. There will be leftovers, because you can only keep however many, 10 or 11 on the roster at a time.
Yeah, and with all these young players taking up a very low salary on that rookie salary deal, we could have enough money to potentially overpay a catcher in free agency, because let's face it, catchers are going to be overpaid in free agency in the next several years just because of the nature of their position, just not having a lot of catching talent in the major or really the minor leagues.
But spending all that money is an interesting note, because the Braves aren't really known for shelling out the dollars.
And even when they do, it hasn't turned out like, two obvious examples, BJ Upton, Dan Ugla, But we'll move on to the next trade that just happened yesterday. And it's involving Hunter Cervenka and another guy that you may not know. So Cervenka was pitching in the Independent League last year, and he's a guy that we just signed to Gwinnett, gave him a shot to pitch well in AAA, and thought, well, maybe he could be something. We don't have a lot of left-handed talent. And he turned out to be very good. He had a ERA around 3 this year. I think it was 3.18, somewhere in that range. And the Marlins needed a lefty reliever to go with Mike Dunn, who's also a former Brave. So the Braves, no matter what, in a lefty-lefty split, are probably going to be seeing a former Brave pitcher. But what's even more interesting about that is our return. John Coppolella is really getting some good returns on these trades. Braves fans should be really happy. He got minor league shortstop Anthony Seymour and left-handed pitcher Michael Mader. Both of those are in low and high A ball. And they are notable prospects. Seymour was ranked number 8 in the Marlins system. Mader was number 24. And they're doing pretty good this year. So Frankie, just go ahead and tell us some more about him.
Yeah, Seymour was hitting .254. He had 37 stolen bases, which is a high number to me, especially as the Braves don't have a ton amount of speed. Then he was a former center fielder. Mader has 103 innings pitched, 3.5 ERA. I mean, those sound like pretty good numbers to me.
They are good numbers, and again, they're not in the high levels of the minor leagues, but
you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, they're numbers to be progressing to better levels for us. So.
And I think that it was a good return, especially for somebody the Braves didn't really expect too much out of. It was kind of, you start with nothing and you get something. Maybe these two guys will turn out to be something. And John Coppolella, he's been adding and adding and adding to the farm system. Eventually we're going to have to get some return, because I think, 1 out of every 5 prospects or 1 out of every 3, whatever it is, turn out to be good. And we've got enough that 1 out of every 10, we'd still be okay.
Yeah, 1 out of every 3 is generally, you're doing a good job in that range. So we'll move on now to the waiver claim that the Braves put in today. They got right-handed pitcher Chaz Rowe from the Orioles. Not having a great year so far, but it's over a small sample size. So don't really worry about the numbers. 9.2 innings pitched, and he's allowed 4 earned runs. But he had a very nice year last year, 4.14 ERA and 41.1 innings pitched. So he's had he's got a decent amount of backing on his stats. So I really hope he can come in the bullpen and be something, and you never know, we could flip him too for some prospects or something good. Another roster move today, the Braves DFA'd Brandon Snyder, and they called up Madison Youngener from AAA. Youngener did not pitch well today. His ERA is now 27 for this year, if that tells you anything. Yeah, didn't have a good outing, so don't expect much out of him. He's another guy that could just be taking up a 40-man roster spot until someone comes back off the DL, because they probably wouldn't mind DFAing Youngener. I don't think it would really hurt them. So we've had some Twitter polls in the past couple of days. For those of you that follow us on Twitter, we are at ATL Sportscasts. So yeah, if you don't follow us, give us a follow. And the polls have been involving the topics we talk about. So one we had with the MLB trade deadline being tomorrow. This was on the 31st of July. Who's the most likely Brave to be traded before the deadline? Nick Markakis won with 53%.
He's still a Brave?
Yeah, Jim Johnson was second place with 26%. Jeff Francoeur was third with 16%, and Eric Ivar was fourth with 5%. We had 19 votes, so we have a little bit of a sample size here. It's not like 2 or 3 people voted. So it's very interesting that all 4 of these guys are still in Braves uniforms. Jeff Francoeur is expected to hang around, but there were still a few rumors around him. But the waiver trade deadline is not up. These guys can still be traded as long as they're passed through waivers successfully. So Frankie, I'm going to turn this question on you. Who do you think out of those 4 options right now, if you had to pick one, who would it be?
Pick one to get rid of, or pick one to get traded?
Yeah, pick one to get traded. I mean, they're all legitimate. Ibar at the time looked like he was just terrible, but now he's really turned it around. He's brought his batting average up in the in the 230s. I don't think it'll ever be in the 330s, but 230s, and he's been on a hot streak since he came off the DL.
I still think that he won't be traded. If he is, he will bring very minimal return. His entire body of work this season has not been impressive, and I don't think teams are willing to put a bunch on the line for a streaky player like him. I still think Nick Markakis brings the most value to the table if I had to choose, because he is going to be a veteran leader. He's still hitting. It's not like he's complete trash. He is a good player. He's getting towards the end of his career, so maybe to a contender this year. They're just wanting to, like the Cubs. I don't know. They don't need him, but they need somebody to finish through the clubhouse, get them all motivated to win the World Series this year.
Yeah, and Markakis, he brings value, but he also brings a nice salary to pay. Not a lot, but it's more than a lot of teams would like to pay. So the Braves might have to eat some money in a potential trade for him. I think if anyone's traded, it's still Jim Johnson, just because he's put together a few good outings in these past couple weeks. So it'll be interesting to see. They might not trade any of them. They didn't trade them before the non-waiver deadline. And you never know. They could be done, or they could still be fielding offers. The second poll I'd like to discuss, we tweeted the breaking news that the Braves traded Hector Olivera for Matt Kemp plus cash. Again, this was on July 30th. And, we tweeted, was it a good or a bad move for the Braves? 59% said a good move, 18% said a bad move, and 23% said, let's wait and see. We had 137 votes on that one. So it's just very interesting just putting the results out there on our podcast so that you guys know what people are thinking on the Twitter world.
You can also find us on Google Plus now, so if you are following us on Google Plus or on Twitter, we thank you very much. Please tell your friends, and that will be great. You can also find us on our website, Google Play, or Stitcher. You can find links to all those directories on our website. You can also contact us there under the Contact Us tab. We appreciate all comments and suggestions. Anything is appreciated. Please give us your thoughts.
So, the starting rotation has been an issue for the Braves ever since the season started. They moved Bud Norris. Lots of things have happened this season. So, this week we have Julio Teheran going on the 15-day DL. We have Matt Wisler optioned. So it's like, okay, out of your opening day rotation, you basically have nobody. I mean, Fulte, I believe he was on the DL at the time, still recovering, or at least in the minor leagues on rehab for opening day. So, right now, I mean, the starting rotation is just hectic. You've got Fulte, number 1. You've got Rob Whalen, number 2. Roberto Hernandez, number 3. It's like, who are these people in our starting rotation? Yeah, Roberto Hernandez was just called up a few days ago. He gave up 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched, got his first win in a Braves uniform. Rob Whalen, in his MLB debut, 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. He also got a win, thanks to the Braves putting together some nice hitting. With Wisler being optioned, Fulte's still giving up the home run ball, and Wisler was optioned because of giving up the home run ball. So, why do you think the pitchers are doing that, Frankie? Is it a mental mistake or a mechanical mistake or maybe a mixture of both?
Well, I don't think there's very much mechanical issues and most of the Major League pitching. I think that if there were, they'd be ironed out by the coaches immediately, and I really think that it would be fixed, and it wouldn't be the issue. I think some of it is more mental right now at this point. They're both young. They're still not complete Major League veterans. I think that they'll get over this. I hope they get over this. I know they need to get over this. The front office needs at least 5 or 6 of these pitchers to get over the mental side of the game. I mean, what was it? Yogi Berra once said baseball is 90% half mental.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, this is the hardest part of the game to fix. I mean, they've been playing the game since they were 5, but not many of them have dealt with this many people watching and this much pressure, so I think it's mental. They'll get over it eventually.
Yeah, and the reason I put mechanical into that question, you never know why Matt Wisler was optioned. It could be maybe he was making a mechanical mistake here and there and they wanted to tweak it. And by mechanical mistake, I don't mean he has a flaw. It's just something they want to tweak in his maybe delivery or his release. Just something like that. So that just kind of rationalizes the part of the question. And I think that's all we have for now.
Yeah, I think so. So thank you for listening. Remember to check out our other episode of the day. I know it was strange. We did split it up again this time. Yeah, we'll see you next week with another show.